Ready or not, you're in the big fight. My name is Richard Thomas, former mayor of the city of Mount Vernon, and the coronavirus has ravaged not just our health, but our economies, forcing the question of whether or not states should declare bankruptcy. That is the big question that we're going to seek to address in this segment. And right now, we have heard this from our Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who has essentially suggested that if states want more funding, they should possibly declare bankruptcy. Thankfully, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo said that's a dumb idea. I agree, because when you look at the facts and you look more carefully at the consequences of privatization, it never really ends well for municipalities when there's total and complete takeover of public assets. So let's take a quick look at what is in the $2 trillion CARES package that the United States Congress passed. And when you look carefully at it, you see that individuals got an allocation of $560 billion, public health institutions got $153 billion, state and local governments initially got upwards of $339 billion, small businesses got $377 billion, but that fund ran out. They just replenished it with another $400 or $500 billion. But big corporations from the outset got $500 billion. Now, we know that this is just the beginning. That was the first CARES package that passed. But the real question is, what did the businesses do with the dollars when they got it? Well, when you look closely at some of the banks, when you look under the hood, as was reported in the Financial Times on April 18th, you see that some of the biggest banks, Bank of America, Citigroup, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, they all essentially set the tone for their results. They took the liquidity from the Fed to essentially address their loans that they are having problems with. So that's what the banks initially did. They worked to make sure that they took care of themselves, as we've always known. That's what happens in crises. But let's take another look, a little bit deeper dive, and look at the credit situation of some of these banks. Now, when you look at Citigroup, you see that their risk increased significantly since last year. Wells Fargo, Bank of America, which, they saw a net decrease in risk, but overall, you see large increases in risk at some of these institutions, less Goldman Sachs. So just want to point out that Bank of America is Warren Buffett plays a huge role there, and Goldman Sachs, a strong institution. These two seem to stand out as ones that have decreased their risk but strengthened their positions, leading at least Goldman Sachs to take the position that they're going to invest into small businesses. But we'll come back to that. But this slide is from Professor Robert Engel, who I interacted with when I was at Stern School of Business, receiving some great insight, some great instruction, but also from Dr. Michael Spence, both Nobel laureates who advised me when I was serving as mayor. Just, simple things. Demonstrate. But what I want to demonstrate with this graph is that look at the risk. Look at the growth here. Look at the growth here. Look at the growth with JP Morgan Chase. The risk is astronomical. But with respect to what happened with the CARES Act, not only did the United States Senate provide $2 trillion in aid, but they also authorized the Fed. They authorized the Fed to essentially print however much money they need to print to address the coronavirus crisis. And that's where we have to step back and ask the question of, well, why would the United States Senate say municipalities, states should declare bankruptcy when they already know that the Federal Reserve Bank is going to print as much money as necessary to shore up the financial system? Why would we allow a private entity to privatize sewers, privatize streets, privatize street lights, privatize even security. Why would we want that to happen? Because when you look at the incentives for a private group are far different than the incentives for a public good. And that's where we definitely have to focus on what should municipalities do in the face of this pressure, philosophical pressure from the Republican Congress saying, declare bankruptcy, deal with it, go to the private markets for funding. That's a big setup for a bigger fight for the public good. And I just want to, come back here and say, okay, so now that we know this, what should municipalities do? My recommendation is do not take the bankruptcy bait. The problem is the solution. Banks have the money. Now we need to make them use it to benefit the public good. As we know, complete privatization has never worked that well for the public, and I emphasize the word complete. And there are some examples of when parking meters were taken over in Chicago to parking lots taken over here in Westchester County. Just not very good for the public. Prices go up, and it becomes more of an inequitable situation. So what should municipalities do? They should not sell out. Remember, the problem is a solution. They should build big and leverage deflation to create value. Municipalities should enact smart policies because it will create smart taxpayer solutions. And if you are going to work with the private market, which is a good thing to do, you should strike a partnership that retains ownership of local assets, not sell out, not roll over and say, well, we can't make the perfect the enemy of the good and da-da-da. No, it's not about enemy. It's not about perfect. It's about the right balance. And understanding that you have to have ownership. You have to have the ability to influence and control your destiny. And without controlling your destiny, you're really setting yourself up to fail. So one of the things that municipalities can do is start being offensive in these markets that are currently down. Purchasing oil futures is a good idea, and stockpiling essential goods are also good things for municipalities to do. I mean, oil prices hit a huge low, and for municipalities that rely on fuel, most all municipalities do, but you should take advantage of the low prices now and try and stockpile them so that you can get a better deal down the line. But I do want to just come back to this $2 trillion package. Big corporations, they got a big bailout. Individuals got some. It's still not clear as to whether or not Congress is going to come back and help the people. Hopefully they do. But I do, and I am thankful that Governor Cuomo called the bankruptcy idea a dumb idea because it doesn't really serve the public good that well. We know that the banks took care of themselves. They reallocated their portfolios to address their needs, as you can see here. And in this slide, you can see that the risk, the systemic changes are definitely increasing for many different institutions. But if you want to see more about what Professor Robert Engel had to say, contact me. I'll drop a link below. You can just Google this right here and it'll pop up right in YouTube. But I do want to just close by saying, look, we're in the middle of the fight of our life. The coronavirus has definitely just totally ravaged families. It took us all, unfortunately, by surprise, but it was the biggest wake-up call that we'll ever experience in our lifetime. My hope is that the frontline workers, the healthcare workers, get the support that they need. All the families that lost loved ones or are right now struggling to keep their loved ones safe, I'm praying for you. And just know that we will get through this. The more and more we focus on what really matters, which is our family, our health is real wealth, we will always prevail. But with respect to being set up to fail, this big fight where we're being told to declare bankruptcy, that's the wrong direction. That will set us up to fail because it will turn over our assets to the 1%. And that's not something that municipalities, the public, should be doing. We should be going the other way. We should be playing offense, not defense. and let's count on the Fed to finance big municipal projects and not necessarily allow the privatization to take over and take us all the way back. I'm Richard Thomas. You joined the big fight. Let's win and keep swinging.